Welcome to the Matt O'Grady Coaching Podcast. This is where Matt shares all his ideas on how to be happier, more successful, and enjoy life to the fullest. Please go to mattogradycoaching.com and theliving.gratitudebook.com to learn more and receive your free micro-coaching session with Matt.
Welcome to the Matt O'Grady Coaching Podcast and the Matt and Phil Show revived.
Wow.
Yes. Can you believe it? After all these years, my best friend, Phil Giuliano, is back with me to have a discussion on all things that we're dealing with here in March 2020. And brother, I'm so glad to have you on again. It's been way too long.
Yeah, absolutely, Matt. And it's a pleasure to be on here with you. I'm really excited about having an opportunity to chat with you in this way again. And sometimes, unusual circumstances can, bring about some really nice happenings, and this will be one of them.
That's it. We're going to get into all the opportunities and the rebirth and the renewing. But for those of you who don't know, Phil founded this channel with me 10 years ago, Phil. Can you believe that?
Wow. Was it 10 years ago? Wow.
10 years ago, we got together, and I think our first conversation was over, a glass of bourbon together or similar at your house after dinner with our other halves. And we're sitting there talking, and I was like, this new podcasting thing, it's really interesting. I've been thinking about starting something, we should talk about it because we always have these great spiritual self-development conversations whenever we get together. And hence the Matt and Phil Show was born. And we both loved Abraham, and we love self-development and spirituality. We both have Buddhist backgrounds and holistic backgrounds. And we brought all of that together, and all of those shows are still available. And people still listen to them. You believe that, Phil?
It's amazing, and it's amazing that you said that it's up to like 700,000 downloads.
Unbelievable
series, which just boggles my brain, because I clearly remember that very first one in your kitchen with your lovely wife Tara. Bringing notes back and forth for
handing each other Post-its. Right, and it was
talking about feelings first. I think that was the
feelings first. That's right. That was the title. Yeah, how important our emotions are, and to understand them and be aware of them. It's a great listen if you want to hear the inaugural podcast, and we have almost 500 podcasts done too.
Wow.
Still dozens that Matt and Phil have not released. They're saved in the secret archives. And who knows, maybe we'll bust those out someday.
That's true. Yeah, that's right. That's like the the unreleased stuff, the special box set.
That's it. We're going to have to save that for like the post 10-year anniversary. We'll come up with an idea.
And the 1 million download
that's it.
Anniversary.
Be a big celebration. Hopefully we'll be able to do that in person. And which is a nice segue, because in person doesn't happen all that much right now. Phil, what's going on, man?
Yeah, in person does not happen very much these days. And I've been hearing this thing about some kind of virus or something.
Yeah, I think there's something going around. Yeah, I've heard there's something going around.
I know that my office is closed. I have to work from home, and everybody is shut in, and man, this is an interesting time.
Yes, thank God we still have the internet and Netflix and those types of things to keep us distracted, keep us connected with those we love, be able to do Zoom calls like this one, and still move life forward and stay connected to some of the things that are important to us, which is
that's nice something to really be grateful for, right? I mean, I was thinking about this the other day. If this had happened even just like 20 years ago, what would the displacement have been? Because, very few people would have been able to work from home back then. And without that ability, the economy would, if it's come to a screeching halt now, it would have been dead.
Oh yeah, it would
20
have
years ago.
been, yeah, 100, and it would have happened so quickly. In like a week, the economy would have disappeared.
Yeah.
Thankfully for the internet and for online, mobile phones, etc., we're able to really stay connected, and whatever business is able to be done. Like I own a digital marketing company, so our business hasn't really slowed down at all. Just because people are trying to do things online.
Right.
But that's, I know not everybody has that opportunity. So I just want to acknowledge some compassion and thoughtfulness around everybody that's been affected, whether it's their jobs, whether it's their health or their family's health. I mean, just important to give a little shout out to all the people that are directly affected by this. From a health perspective or financial perspective, we're just sending you some love and compassion right now.
Yeah, that's a great point. And for the people that, especially people that are in, service industries, like you used to be in the service industry.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was in it as a massage therapist.
Sure.
People like that, and who are often on the fringes of kind of the usual. A lot of times they don't have the usual benefits that people that have a steady job or run their own business that's more established will have.
That's right.
They don't have that kind of safety net.
No.
A lot of people are just kind of like have to wait it out. And I think it's I also want to join you in sending out love and compassion to those people, and I think that it's incumbent upon those of us who were lucky enough to be in a situation where we're not so totally displaced or because of the situation, that we that we can send love and appreciation to those people and see them getting through this okay.
That's it. I mean, this whole situation, as you and I have talked, just personally in our friendship, and that's part of what sparked us to say, hey, let's finally do it. Let's get back together. It's been too long to do a show. Is right. It really is a mixed bag. Right on the surface, there's things that I can say I'm massively more grateful for than I've ever been before, because it's shined such a light on what isn't there now. And so noticing what is there is such a huge positive for me, with family and connection and relationships and everything that I was already grateful for, but that much easier to kind of see it now because of the changes we're dealing with. And then some of the tough stuff, which we just acknowledged, for the world, all the service people who just can't touch anyone or be in close contact, the millions of people that have been affected by that. Right. And then the mixed bag of seeing the good and the tough. And then where do we go from here? Personally, as a community, as a global community, how do we take our individual lives forward? How do we acknowledge these good things, move through the tough stuff? And then, as I did the most recent podcast on hope, Phil, just feel like that is so important right now, and really something that I think, would be helpful to all of us, is trying to say, look inside and see where we could find some hope, so that we can start to envision how we're all going to come out of this together and possibly be even better than we were before, eventually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great point. Like our friend Abraham will say, when there is a time of heightened contrast, which for those of you who don't know what that means, that's just their way of saying when there's a heightened sense of unwanted things happening. Yeah. Simultaneously, automatically, there is a birth of a desire for something better. And globally right now, what we're seeing is an intense desire to get through this, for people to be well, for things to quote unquote return to normal, although they'll never return to exactly what they were, simply because that's not possible. Right. But as you're saying, how can we not only come back to where it was, but come back into an even higher place? And I think that's entirely possible. as individuals, we can all point to challenges that we've had in our lives that felt very difficult while they were happening. We were dreading every step of it.
That's right.
But then we can look back later and see how those things changed us for the better, and how those things made us stronger and made us more resilient and caused us to grow, basically. I mean, that's the simplest way to put it. And this can have that effect as well. But I think this is where it gets a little more subtle, and that is, well, yes, it can, but a lot of it will depend upon, as individuals, where are we keeping our vibration? Where are we keeping our focus? Are we this intense new desire that's being hatched globally is creating a very powerful stream of well-being that's increasing. But we have to align with it if we're going to, take a ride on that giant wave that's being created. We talked about this before, Matt, that if we kind of think of it as an ocean, that the mass consciousness, the ocean of mass consciousness, is being churned very powerfully right now. And that's creating these huge waves. Now, if you resist the wave, it'll just bury you. But if you align with it and catch it, you'll get an incredible ride. And I think that's the opportunity that's kind of hidden under the surface of what's happening here.
Yeah, without a doubt. I still do for most of my podcasts, I come up with some quotes, and like you and I used to do back then. And so I looked up a few for our podcast today, and this is a great one by Joseph Campbell. He says, "We must be willing to get rid of the life we've planned so as to have the life that is waiting for us. The old skin has to be shed before the new one can come." And I think that's what we're all facing right now. We have to, to a certain degree, shed the past, live in the present, and start inviting in this new life for us. And I think, as you were talking about, Phil, the tough personal things we've all gone through individually, and kind of seeing that as the opportunity for what we're all going through together globally right now, and pain and suffering, if it has awareness around it, can be the absolute best thing that propels our life forward in the direction of our dreams. Because we go through that fire, we come out like the phoenix, and it's ever hard to do when you're in the midst of it. But if you know that as a truth or as a philosophy, a belief, and you have faith in that, it's something you can work towards individually in your own life, in your own inner work, and then hopefully inspire others around us, whether that's with your small circle, your family, your friends, your work connection, or like we do some here, because we get thousands of downloads on this podcast, hopefully lifting up our community and the people that we're connected to in an even greater way, because we have a greater reach. And then, of course, the celebs and the different famous people that are really positive minded, spiritually minded, and kind of bring this together as a global community. I really think we have the chance to raise the whole vibration of the planet through this. That's my hope. That's my vision for this, coming out on the other side of this. Yeah.
And I join you in that. And it's very much in alignment with what I've been hearing Abraham talk about, a global reset that this kind of represents. And I think that's basically what's happening here, is that it is a global reset. And you think about, well, what's it like when you reset your computer? You shut it down, everything goes blank, and
right,
and you can't do anything for a little while. But then it reboots and it comes back up, and hopefully it's running better than before you did that. And I think that's part of what's happening here, that it is a global reset. And and we will have an opportunity to move into a higher place because of it.
Yes.
But it's not automatic in the sense that well-being always abounds. But
Yes.
we have, as individuals, with our free will, we have the choice point of aligning with it or not. And
Yes.
If we choose to keep our focus on what's bad about the situation, what's hard about the situation, and stay there all the time, then it makes it increasingly difficult for that well-being to find its way into our consciousness. Whereas if we can step away and see the bigger picture, then it's easier. And I know that's easy. That sounds easy to say,
Yes.
when we have people that are, dealing firsthand with the crisis, either financially or physically, emotionally, all those things combined. They have loved ones that may have passed or are currently sick or to whatever degree, and I do have compassion for all those people, just as I have compassion for myself when I've gone through difficult times in my life. But there is light at the end of that tunnel, and I don't want to repeat myself, but I do think it is incumbent upon those of us who maybe are having a less intense experience to offer the hand up to those who are, and saying, yeah, I acknowledge the struggle that you are going through right now, and I want to give you a hand up, and we can do that, and I think that's Abraham will often say, one person that's in alignment is more powerful than a million that aren't. So,
That's right.
So those of us who can find our way into alignment, envision, the rest of them who may not be in alignment right now joining us.
No, that's beautifully said. I think it really is. There's a couple of things I want to respond to that, and because I agree with you so much of the global reset, right? When we reset our computer, and it's necessary, right? We're not doing it just kind of haphazardly. There's an intention around it, which I'll circle back to, but
Right.
We know that it's going to be better, right? We do it for a computer so that it works more harmoniously. The same way we as human beings work more harmoniously when we meditate, for example, when we laugh, when we feel love, when we get this kind of cleanse of emotions or go through a process that's really healthy for us. We get a bit of that reset process that allows us to go forward better, which is just, so necessary when we're doing it. And so it's kind of the macro and the micro, as above, so below, right? It's kind of happening on this large level, and we as the individuals, the small level. And there's one thing I wanted to mention here, because on April 4th, 2020, there's a group coming together to try to do an ascension meditation. They're aiming to get 1 million people to meditate at the same time. And I just wanted to share that information in case anyone's interested. Let's just see where this link is. And we will come up with it. I have the information here. For the USA, it's going to happen at let's see here, 22:45. So what is that military time? Is that 10:45?
You were in the military, you tell me.
Yeah. But I've done a lot of forgetting of that, Phil. A whole lot of it. Yes. So that is 10:45 Eastern time in the USA. And just, if you Google Stargate meditation, I don't have the link here. It's not coming up for me. But I just think that that's cool, that there's some groups out there trying to bring people together globally to meditate. And I think the plan is important here for ourselves, for the individuals. Like, the global plan is going to have to come together as we all do it. But what are we doing in our own lives? Are we renewing that meditation, qigong practice, yoga practice? That's just my own personal techniques for doing it. But what is, as you, the listener, what are you doing to make sure that you're boosting your immunity, you're relaxing your heart and your mind, letting that stress kind of fall off each day? I think that's a really important process here, is that you've actually got a plan and an intention so that you can follow through. And while we're home with a little more time on our hands for most of us, how are you using that time to better your own internal life process, so that as you continue forward in your life, you're raising your vibration and raising your consciousness level, so that you're attracting in that much more of what you want for your life experience?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I certainly have a lot more time on my hands than I did before. And if I want to, I can sit in front of the TV and have a absolutely nonstop update in the moment of everything that's going on all around the globe, about the latest number of cases update, the latest number of deaths update, what's happening in New York, what's happening in Italy, what's happening here, there, and everywhere, or what Donald Trump is saying, what the reaction to what Donald Trump is saying. And you can watch that stuff easily, nonstop, all day long, if that's what you want to do.
Yes.
And I watch a little bit of it because I do want to keep abreast of what's happening.
Sure.
But I also know that it's really not good for my mental state and my psyche and my vibration to spend a disproportionate amount of time focused on all the darker aspects of this, and then balance that with, like, okay, well, I suddenly have this blessing of more time on my hands than I typically have. What am I going to do with it?
Yes.
I can meditate more. Like you said, I can do my yoga or qigong. I've become a big proponent of the Wim Hof method, which is breathing exercises very similar to pranayama and cold exposure and meditation, and all these things that have been shown to boost the immune system. So I focus on that, and spend time talking to loving and positive people, like I do with my friend Matt here, and other people in my life. I see if I can put this in a way that is clear. I don't want to feel guilty for the time that I feel like, what? There are a lot of positive aspects to what's happening here too. And there's nothing wrong with focusing on the positive aspects. And I know, Matt, you said, and you mentioned it here in the podcast, that because of the nature of your business, that it's actually been busier for you during this time. And I get, I feel great about that. I feel, oh, that's great. It's great that, this is not all about challenge and suffering, that there's always the yin to the yang. And so that means that, for everything that's quote unquote dark and negative, there's something that's at least equally light and positive, if not more so. And there are times when I wake up and I say, you know what, hey, this is really kind of neat. I got all this time that I can use in any way I want. I can spend more time playing music. I can spend more time working on my spiritual practice. I'm thinking about, maybe I should buy a multi-track recorder, and I can make some music on my own because I can't play with my band right now.
Right.
And those kinds of things. So we always have, we spoke a little bit about this in the pre-show, and I think what this situation is doing is it's taking, those kind of choice points that we always have them in our lives, but sure, it's magnifying them and making them more intense, and giving us an opportunity to look more closely at, okay, well, what is it that I'm doing, and what is it that I'm focusing on? And is what I'm doing or what I'm planning to do, is that going to raise my vibration or is it not going to raise my vibration? And only you can make that call. Sometimes you may feel a desire to, I do need to turn into the news and I want to kind of find out what's going on. But you'll know when you can feel your vibration starting to dip, and when you start going into anger or fear or frustration, maybe it's time to turn that off for a little while and
That's right.
do something else, and maybe that's a good time to reach out to a friend or to a loved one and talk to them and spend some time with them. That's another thing a lot of people have been doing during this time, is reaching out to people that maybe they haven't spoken to or had contact with in a while, because now you have this time on your hands. I think that's a really positive thing to do. Go ahead and take advantage. We've been given this blessing of technology that enables us to connect with people from a distance. So why not take advantage of it?
I couldn't agree with you more. One of our mutual great friends, Stacy Plasky from Balance Yoga, sent something really beautiful out today on the Material World Foundation that was founded by one of your favorites, George Harrison.
Oh, wow.
And they're donating, hundreds of thousands of dollars to different things for COVID related. And she sent that out, thought it was great. But what really took away for me from going to this page was a quote from one of his songs. And if you go to materialworldfoundation.com, you can see this about the foundation. And there's a great YouTube video of Inner Light by the Beatles and George Harrison. And a quote from the lyrics here is, "Without going out of my door, I can know all things on earth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Without looking out of my window, I can know the ways of heaven." And that's just like really hits me, like I feel arrested after reading that quote, because that's really what we can be doing for ourselves, for our lives right now, is going on the inside, because, we forget, especially with such an external virus thing that's going on in the news that you were mentioning, Phil. I couldn't agree with you more. Everything you said, they're managing that consciously. And the real opportunity is to remember that we can go inside, and that's the real life anyway, even though it doesn't seem like that, because we're physical beings in a physical world. All the greatest teachers will tell you that the inner world is actually more real than the outer world. And when you continue your self-practice, you start to realize that my whole life is me pushed out. So as Neville Goddard says, and that's the world we see. So if we're able to raise that vibration, able to increase our consciousness a bit through this whole process, we're going to start to be able to see things differently, right? When we start to look at things differently, what we see changes. That quote from Wayne Dyer, right? You probably know it better than me, Phil.
When you change the way that you look at things, the way that the things that you look at change.
Yes, thank you. And such a beautiful quote, and so true, and when you say that quote, I'm reminded of "Be the change you wish to see in the world" by Gandhi, and that's this opportunity that we can experience all the beautiful things, as George Harrison says, here on the inside. Really vibrate that and allow that energy to move through us. And then we're going to be experiencing that more on the outside, like you said, with family. I mean, we were doing a Zoom last night. I was on with my brother and his wife and kids with Patrick on one iPad. On the other iPad, Tara was on with her brothers and their families and their kids, and we're side by side. So we had almost like a 15-person Zoom thing happening with FaceTime and iPads, and we're all connected, having happy hour together and laughing and joking and having a great time, and that's never happened before.
Right. That's fantastic. Yeah. And I love that. I love that, you guys are being creative and clever in leveraging the technology to have an experience like that. I think that's fantastic. And if I remember correctly, that song that George Harrison song that you quoted, Where George took those lyrics almost directly from the Tao Te Ching.
Oh, really? I didn't
Yes.
know that.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Those words are almost exactly out of the Tao Te Ching. And George was just beginning, his spiritual journey at that time, and was starting to incorporate it into his music. And I'm sure that George is from his non-physical perspective now, radiating his love to all those who would accept it, and it's a beautiful thing. And I'll be sure to check out what Stacy sent out.
Yeah, it's very cool and worth watching the YouTube videos. It's my big takeaway from what we're talking about today, Phil, is there's an opportunity. Absolutely. Are we going to take it? Like there's no doubt about, like we started the show with love and compassion for all of those affected, health, physical, their lives, the financials, like there's no doubt about that. And thank God there's people like George Harrison's group, doing real things for real people, not some of that other BS charity stuff that goes on. But what's great about it is we are coming together, and there is help out there, and it's so important to seek it, whether it's a podcast like this or, the actual, organizations that are out there trying to help people. There is an opportunity here. Can we see it? Can we intend for it? Can we raise our vision for our lives, for everyone, for the world's population to be raised through this, and then go about realizing it?
Yeah. I mean, it brings to mind when you said there's an opportunity here, that many people know, or maybe some don't, that the Chinese calligraphy for crisis also has opportunity within it.
Yes.
And it's always so that a crisis always comes with it an opportunity for something better and for change for the positive. And that's absolutely what's happening here. And I'm almost sheepish to say that I'm excited about what's on the other side of that.
Yeah.
But I am.
Yeah, me too. And I understand where you're coming from, because somebody that's in a lot of pain right now that hears that might, react potentially negatively to that, sure. Matt and Phil are excited. This is an opportunity. What are they talking about? My life's in ruins or something, Yes. And so please know that we, first and foremost, we have compassion for anybody dealing with that. But when things start to shift and change, and for those of you who aren't dealing with any of that, guess what? Now's the time. You can do this. We believe in you, and there's no doubt that you can do it. We've overcome so much as a human race throughout the millennia. We are going to overcome this as well. And that's really, I think, that the message of hope and unity and coming together as this global community is really one of the most beautiful things I can take away from this.
Absolutely. I mean, all I can say is there is wisdom in the words that say this too shall pass, and it will.
It will. Philip, do you have any final words of wisdom you'd like to share with our listeners today?
Just my gratitude for the opportunity to have this time with you, Matt, and to connect with some people out there who may get some benefit from what we've talked about here. But ultimately, just to know that, God is walking with you. It is totally within you. And that wellness, that well-being, that love is, you cannot lose it. You can separate yourself from it for a little while, but it is who you are. And if you turn to it, it will always comfort you.
That's beautiful, man. Very well said. I echo that. just want to say I'm doing free coaching right now. So I'm on every podcast. I'm trying to remember, just, if anybody's interested, just go to mattogreadycoaching.com and reach out to me. Tell me you want some free coaching, and I'm happy to do it. And Phil, if you want to reach to Phil, have any messages, you can contact me there as well, and I will pass it along, and he will follow up with you.
Sure.
And I know you do. Phil does a lot of counseling, and he does different card readings, tarot cards. Phil's a master at many talents, and energy work and different things like that. So feel free to reach out to Phil for support as well. And I'm going to leave us with a quote, Phil, from our buddy Lao Tzu. When I let go of what I am, I become what I might be.
Oh, fantastic.
Thank you so much for joining me, Phil. You're my brother. There's always and forever, man. Thank you for everything.
Oh, absolutely. My pleasure. And much love to you and to Tara and to Patrick and to your parents and everyone there in New York. My heart is with all of you, and look forward to connecting with you some more a little bit down the road, Matt.
Thank you, brother. Talk to you soon.
Okay, take care.